All right, let's get right into it. When you think of Jeffrey Epstein, you probably think of finance, of power, and of course, absolutely horrific crimes. But it turns out there's another layer to this story that's just now coming to light, a really startling connection to the Islamic world. We're talking about his own private beliefs, a truly shocking scandal, and a debate that is just raging online. So, what is this link exactly? That's the question we're going to dig into. And I have to tell you, the connections are as surprising as they are controversial. We're going to look at his personal emails, an alleged international trafficking plot, and even a connection to one of the most sacred objects in all of Islam. So let's unpack this. So, where do we even begin? Well, I think the best place to start is with the most direct evidence we have. Epstein's own words, pulled straight from his email exchanges. This gives us a raw, totally unfiltered look into how he thought about faith and the world, and it really sets the stage for the wilder parts of this story. Okay, get this. The spiritual guru, Deepak Chopra, emails Epstein inviting him to Israel. He even says, "Bring your girls, it will be fun." And Epstein's response? It's blunt. He just writes back, "I do not like Israel at all." Now, that one line directly pushes back against a lot of the online theories that he was some kind of Israeli intelligence asset. But then you have the other side of the coin. In a completely different exchange, after someone sends him an email about the Prophet Muhammad, Epstein replies, "Sounds pleasant, the Prophet understood much." The contrast here is just, wow. He flat out rejects Israel, but he seems to be admiring the Prophet of Islam. So you have to ask, right? Was this just some random comment? Or was it a little window into some kind of strange private fascination he had? And this is where the story goes from some strange emails to something way more shocking. We're about to get into a really serious allegation that involves an object of immense religious importance. We're moving from his weird words to a tangible and, for many, a deeply offensive act. But before we go any further, it is absolutely crucial to understand what the Kiswah is. I mean, this is not just some fancy piece of fabric. This is the ornate, embroidered cloth that covers the Kaaba in Mecca, the single building that Muslims all over the world face when they pray. It is steeped in centuries and centuries of devotion. And this photograph, this is at the very center of the allegation. It reportedly shows Jeffrey Epstein posing with a large, ornate black cloth. Now, sources allege that this is an actual piece of the sacred Kiswah, illegally trafficked and delivered right to him. The very idea of this man possessing such a holy item is, to many people, a profound desecration. And this wasn't just some vague rumor. The reports actually lay out a very specific operation. They named two alleged facilitators from the UAE, Aziza al-Ahmadi and Abdullah al-Ma'ari. They even cite the carrier, British Airways, and they detail the route from Saudi Arabia, the home of the Kaaba, all the way to Epstein's base in Florida. So, what was the point of all this? Well, an email, supposedly from Aziza al-Ahmadi to Epstein, seems to spell it out by emphasizing just how sacred this object is. It says, "This black piece has been touched by at least 10 million Muslims. They left their prayers and tears on it." So this wasn't just about getting a valuable antique. It was about possessing an object considered holy by over 1 billion people. Okay, now we need to shift gears pretty dramatically, because Epstein's own weird emails and these serious allegations about the Kaaba cover, well, that's one part of the story. But his name has also taken on a life of its own. It's become a weapon in these really fiery online debates about history and religion. And let's be crystal clear here. We are now analyzing a debate that happens in very specific online spaces. It's a polemical comparison, meaning it's designed to provoke an argument. It's made almost exclusively by critics of Islam, and it's considered deeply slanderous and offensive by Muslims. We are just examining the arguments here, not validating the comparison itself. So the whole basis for this online comparison really boils down to one single point: alleged involvement with minors. You've got Jeffrey Epstein, a convicted sex trafficker whose crimes are well documented, and then on the other side, critics point to traditional Islamic sources, known as hadith, that state the Prophet Muhammad's wife, Aisha, was very young when they married. And these critics try to draw a direct line equating the two situations. But, of course, that comparison doesn't just exist in a vacuum. There is a whole set of very strong counter-arguments from Islamic scholars and from historians that completely challenge this framing. So let's take a look at the key defenses. The defense really stands on three main pillars. First up, historical context. The argument is that marriage norms in 7th century Arabia were just radically different from what they are today. Second, they point to the nature of the relationships, a public, recognized marriage versus a criminal enterprise built on secrecy, grooming, and coercion. And finally, there's this big idea called the presentism fallacy, the flawed logic of judging people in the past by the moral standards of today. So what's the real takeaway from all this? Well, once you step outside of these superheated online flame wars, mainstream historians and neutral academics, they just don't treat this as a serious comparison. They see it for what it is. It's rhetoric, it's designed to provoke. It's not a balanced historical analysis. Which leaves us with one last big question. We've seen Epstein's strange personal comments on Islam, a bizarre allegation of religious trafficking, and now his name being used as a weapon in ancient debates. How does a notorious modern villain like this become a ghost that haunts the past? It's just a strange intersection of modern scandal and ancient faith, and it definitely leaves us with more questions than answers.